So my name is Jennifer Hiltwine, a member of the CRCF team here at CIT, and today's webinar is focused on our current FY2015 solicitation, specifically on the application process. I expect that everyone participating today has submitted a letter of intent and been approved to move forward in the application process. All applicants who are in that stage should have received before the holidays an automatically generated email with instructions on how to submit that application and the link to do so. So if you have not received this email or have any questions regarding the status of your letter of intent submission, please email the CRCF team immediately at crcf@cit.org so that we may resolve any confusions or questions that you may have. So with that disclaimer, we'll keep moving forward. First, let's take a look at this solicitation. In FY15, CRCF was appropriated $2.8 million for a single round. 6 separate programs are available to Virginia's private sector, academia, nonprofit research organizations, and political subdivisions. I don't plan to go into the specific criteria for any of the programs during this presentation, but if you do have any questions about requirements or other program stipulations, I'd be glad to address those at the end of the discussion. As you should all be familiar with by now, having completed the LOI process, all work for all programs under the solicitation must align with one or more of the 7 industry sectors seen on this slide. These technology areas are advanced manufacturing. Specifically, work should be in additive manufacturing, remote monitoring and sensing, or robotics. In communications, specifically in next-generation broadband networks, wireless telecommunications, or next-generation 911 infrastructure. In cybersecurity, energy, information technology, specifically in data analytics, in life sciences, or in modeling and simulation. Appendix B of each set of program guidelines details more about these industry sectors and also discusses remaining technologies under which applicants may identify a relevant secondary technology sector with which their project aligns. This secondary industry sector would be identified in the application. Here is a snapshot of the key dates for this round. The next important date to be familiar with is the application deadline on Friday, January the 30th at 5 p.m. Late applications will not be accepted. Award announcements are planned for early June, and at the earliest, projects may begin on June the 16th. All materials for this solicitation are housed online at the URL on your screen, and then by clicking on the CRCF program for which you intend to apply. Materials are program-specific, such as the guidelines and templates for the proposal and budget. Additionally, other resources have been made available to aid you in the application process, such as sample applications, live and pre-recorded webinars, and an FAQs document. Just as with the LOI, applications must be submitted online. Hard copies, or soft copies submitted via email, will not be accepted nor processed. The sample applications, therefore, that are available for download and used as an example during this presentation are only meant as an example and a guide for the fields that you'll encounter in the online form. Each application consists of 4 to 5 parts, depending on the program. At a minimum, all applications include an online questionnaire, which I'll go through with you shortly, and several documents to be uploaded into the online form: the proposal, budget narrative, and appendix. To be considered complete and thus ready to submit to CIT for consideration, an application must include the online form and any uploaded documents required for that program. For the proposal and budget, there are separate and program-specific templates available to download from the URL highlighted on the previous slide. The current templates must be used. Materials submitted using templates from a previous solicitation, such as in the case of a resubmission, will not be accepted. Please refer to program guidelines for required content and format. for these documents as well as for the appendix discussed on the next screen. The appendix is the other component required of all applicants, regardless of program. There is not a template for this section, and information required varies by program. This would be the section to include researchers' CVs, the required letter from the organization's authorized representative, or any letters of support. All appendices must be within the page limits identified in the guidelines, so be mindful of this. Information included that falls outside the page limits will not be reviewed. It is acceptable to combine different information into a single page, such as multiple letters of support, if space is an issue, provided that all information is legible. For our Matching Funds program this year, applicants must also provide in the appendix a letter addressing market potential from the organization's licensing office or senior administrative official. Again, please refer to those program guidelines for specifics. Applicants under the SBIR or STTR Matching Funds programs must also supply the official notice of award for their SBIR or STTR Phase 1 or 2 project. In the case that an award has not yet been made by the federal agency, use this upload field to provide a document in PDF format that states the calendar year 2014 round under which the proposal was submitted, whether the proposal was a Phase 1 or Phase 2, the sponsoring agency, the SBIR or STTR project title, and the estimated date for the federal award announcement. Should a CRCF award be recommended, funding is contingent upon receipt of that federal SBIR or STTR award. The following two slides show examples of the fields included in the online questionnaire. This particular sample is for the commercialization program, though the only differences that may be seen between the different programs are extra upload fields for the components just discussed for the SBIR or STTR Matching Funds programs. These program-specific sample applications, as I've mentioned before, are available for download from CIT's website. I'd like to draw your attention to the Principal Investigator section. If the authorized representative and the Principal Investigator are the same person, you can indicate this by selecting Yes at the first question, and you'll not have to fill in the remaining fields in that section. A reminder that the authorized representative is the individual authorized to execute legal documents on behalf of the organization or applicant. In the case of universities, this would be an individual from the Office of Sponsored Programs. This should not be the principal investigator or someone such as a department chair. The remaining fields on the application can be seen here. Take a look at the checklist section at the end of the application. We have included this as a final reminder of all required documents to be uploaded with the application. Once an application has been submitted, modifications by the applicant are not possible. If your application is not ready to be submitted, you may select the Save Only option and come back and complete and/or submit at a later time. Applications must be submitted by 5 p.m. on Friday, January 30th to be considered for funding. The screenshot here is of the proposal template, and as with the questionnaire that we just saw, this example is for the commercialization program. As I've mentioned, templates do vary by program, so use the one specific to the program that you're submitting under. On the template, where you see prompts to enter text here, click in that space and either type or paste content. The top section, which mimics information requested in the online form, is required, and we appreciate you providing these details again. Page limits for each section of the proposal and the document as a whole can be found within the guidelines and in the template itself. Please be mindful of these limits, as information outside of the maximum allowed pages will not be considered. All uploaded material should be in final form without track changes or comments. And again, refer closely to program-specific guidelines for what should be included in each section of the proposal. Applications that do not comply with the guidelines will not proceed past initial review. A page break has been included between the technical discussion and strategic plan. And for the SBIR or STTR matching funds programs, also between the strategic plan and commercialization plan. It's okay for these sections to start on a clean and separate page of the template. Proposals should be uploaded into the online application in PDF format. All uploaded materials should be saved with the nomenclature described in the guidelines. In this table, you'll see the 6 programs offered during this solicitation, the required proposal sections, and some specific comments. For instance, and as we just saw on the commercialization program proposal template, a financial table is a required element for private sector applicants. These tables are brief and ask for such information as the date of incorporation, revenue per year since incorporation, and whether the organization is cash flow positive. Additionally, though importantly, while a separate commercialization plan is not required for all programs, CRCF places emphasis on the commercialization element for all programs, and this should be highlighted and addressed within all proposals. The CRCF is routinely asked what makes good and strong proposals. The tips included here are not a guarantee for a CRCF award, but are meant to aid applicants in building a successful proposal. First and foremost, and as I've mentioned countless times throughout this presentation, applicants should consult program guidelines for specific criteria to be included in the proposal. This criteria is clearly spelled out in each set of guidelines and includes discussion of project objectives, the plan of work, and a timeline with milestones. Applicants should discuss how you will accomplish objectives, the activities, methodology, outcomes, and impact. Anticipated technical and economic outcomes for the Commonwealth should also be addressed. Include an evaluation plan and a plan for sustainability. CRCF funds likely will not complete a project, so discuss other funding to be pursued. Discuss the technology or services market potential and potential for commercialization, as well as the project team. Focus discussions on the CRCF project in the aforementioned areas, not on the background information, or in the case of SBIR or STTR, on the federal STTR or SBIR projects. The CRCF proposal should focus on what will be done with CRCF funds. CRCF applications come from every corner of the Commonwealth, and this is a great thing for our state. Each proposal should discuss the impact or the potential the project has for their region, Virginia as a whole, and if applicable, nation and global possibilities. Lastly, though importantly, write clearly and make it easy for reviewers to understand the project objectives and why the work is important. When preparing the proposal, use the template for the program you're applying for, making sure you've downloaded the latest from the website for this current solicitation. Once submitted, each application goes through a 4-step review process, beginning with CIT, who will review each submission for compliance with the guidelines. Then, applications progress to subject matter experts who will review and rank submissions. Applications then go on to the Research and Technology Investment Advisory Committee, or RTAC, a 10-member body established in legislation to review and make award recommendations. Those projects that the RTAC recommends for funding are sent to CIT's Board of Directors, who make final award decisions. For this solicitation, awards will be announced in early June. Complete information on the FY2015 solicitation can be found on the URL on your screen. As mentioned previously, resources are available to aid you in the application process. In addition to program guidelines, we've prepared an FAQs document that addresses many common questions about CRCF and the programs. One final live webinar is scheduled for this Thursday, January the 15th at 11 a.m. on completing the budget and budget narrative. I invite you to join that presentation to learn more about the budget narrative, as well as matching funds. Recorded versions of previously hosted webinars are also available. The recorded video of this session will be made live by the end of the week if you'd like to revisit anything that we've covered or share with colleagues. Should you be interested in receiving a PDF version of the slides only, please email this request to my team at crcf@cit.org and we'd be glad to provide those to you. For any other questions, my team would be happy to address those through that email address as well. So this concludes the prepared remarks for this presentation, and I'd now like to open up the session to any questions that you'll have at this time. All participants will remain on mute to eliminate, like I said earlier, any background noise and feedback. So please submit those questions through the questions function on your webinar panel, and I'll take those in the order that they come in. All right. In regards to the commercialization proposal, should the commercialization plan be part of the strategic plan section or project overview? So under the strategic plan, we do ask you to talk about the potential for commercialization of the resource or technology, and that would be an appropriate place to include the commercialization plan. Certainly if there are other areas such as in the technical discussion under the project description, you could include that there as well, but the strategic plan would probably be your best bet. In regards to the SBIR matching funds, we have completed the Phase 2 project and are working on a potential Phase 3. Are we eligible for the program? So in order to be eligible for the CRCF program, you must have received a Phase 1 or Phase 2, which based on this question, you have that Phase 2. And certainly we would invite your project to be connected to that Phase 2 award and would be happy to cover that interim time between the awards. So things that perhaps your SBIR didn't cover or wouldn't cover, market research or working with folks to license the technology in some of those areas. But with that SBIR award, we would be looking, you do not have to provide additional matching funds. Your SBIR would be the match for that. And certainly we will look in your CRCF proposal for you to discuss the work separate from the SBIR project that you would be using our CRCF funds for. Regarding the revenue table, if established as a sole proprietorship prior to 2014, should we list the revenues? So for the revenue table, all of the applicants to our private sector programs have a date of establishment. And that date of establishment means that we are looking for companies that were not incorporated prior to that date. For the commercialization program, that means companies that are 2 years or younger. And for SBIR and STTR, it's 3 years or younger and 5 years or younger regarding whether you have a Phase 1 or Phase 2 respectively. And so companies, when we're speaking of the establishment date, it would be when they were established for the purpose of doing business, even if work didn't start at that time. So the folks who asked that question, I invite you to email crcf@cit.org so that we can work with you more closely to make sure that indeed your organization is a fit. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'll work with you individually to make sure that that works out. And certainly if you've asked a question and haven't gotten a complete answer or think of something at a later time, we are always available at that email address that's on your screen, and either myself or another member of my team would be glad to get back to you and answer anything more thoroughly or different questions that you may have. So please use us as a resource as you complete your applications. Okay, well, if there are no more questions at this time, I'll go ahead and call this webinar to a close. As I've mentioned, as you think of different questions, as you go through the materials that are available on our website and really work on preparing your presentations, please reach out if you have anything that we can help with. We look forward to receiving everything by January the 30th. So thanks again, everyone.